Hi Capricorn, welcome back to the Astrology 33 channel. This is your May 2026 tarot reading. Thank you to those of you who have liked, viewed, shared, and subscribed to the channel. I appreciate all of that. For those of you new to the channel, as far as what we have in front of us, it's a 12-card spread, with each card representing a different house of the zodiac. Starting with your sign, Capricorn, representing the first house, all the way through to Sagittarius, representing the 12th house. And once we get through that, we'll pull an oracle card as well for some additional insight. As far as the decks being used this month, for the main tarot, we have the Brady tarot, and for the oracle deck, we have the Wisdom oracle. But we're actually going to start the reading off by rolling those astrology guys we have in front of us to get an idea of where your focus should be as far as that goes. Alright, we have Leo. So, for you guys, astrologically speaking, Leo is the 8th house, which points generally to death, rebirth, intimacy, and investments. That area of the zodiac's a little quiet currently, but you could still have some focus on an area of life nonetheless. We have the North Node. So the North Node's still transiting through Pisces, and for you guys, that's your 3rd house of communication, short journeys, and siblings. And 1. So in this context, given that, like we said, for you guys, we'll be using your sign representing the 1st house, this could just be saying that maybe you have a little bit more focus on yourselves this month than your own goals. So we'll keep all of that in mind as we go through the main spread. Alright, so for 1st house, which points to personality, self-awareness, appearance, we have Guile. This is 7 of arrows, which is the equivalent to the 7 of swords. So what I'm getting with this primarily is, sometimes with the 7 of swords or arrows, there can be an energy of deception at play. But here, I feel like this is something saying you're going to be a little bit more strategic, right? So, for example, maybe if there are opportunistic people in your environment, right, who might like to take an idea that's yours and take the credit for it as their own, stuff like that, right? It could just be saying you could be a little bit tight-lipped and really moving in careful, strategic ways this month. Maybe sounds a little bit more dramatic than it is, but hopefully you got the idea. Alright, so for the 2nd house, which points to possession, self-worth, and finances, we have Vantage. So this is really the 3 of feathers, which is 3 of wands, and traditional tarot and Aries energy. So yeah, I feel like this is saying, you could just be in a bit of a wait-and-see mode, right? As far as I feel like this is saying you might feel like you've put some work in around the situation, but I feel like this is saying you're not necessarily stressing yourselves or making any rash decisions around that area of life. Alright, so like we said, we sort of North Node represented for the 3rd house with the dice, and as far as your card for the 3rd house, we have the Emperor. So 3rd house in general, communication, short journey, siblings, and given that you had the North Node there, right, maybe this is saying that as that transit's progressed, you've gained a little bit more confidence in how you communicate to others, right? Maybe you deliver your messages with a little bit more confidence, and that's giving people more confidence in you, right? So they might take your word a little bit more to heart and actually, in some cases, possibly follow your lead as well. So it looks like you are still embracing that energy if that's the case. Alright, so for the 4th house, which points to home roots and family, we have the Wheel of Fortune. So this is Jupiter energy, and I feel like this is saying that you might feel like things are comfortable within that environment, right? Whether it be with family members or just your home environment on a more physical sense. I feel like this is saying you might feel like you finally got things where you want them to be, right? To where you put in work on it for a while, now you're finally starting to see that growth come through. For your 5th house of romance, creativity, and children, we have the Son of Horns. So this is the equivalent of the Knight of Cups. So to see this here could just be saying that for some of you, maybe you're reconsidering getting involved in creative projects, right? Or if there is a desire for you to suddenly embrace romance a little bit more, I feel like this is saying you could be taking the steps to move toward those energies this month. Alright, for the 6th house of health, work, and daily routines, we have the Hermit. So this is Virgo energy here, and To see this could just be saying that, yeah, again, similar to what I was saying when we talked about the Seven of Arrows energy. I feel like there's this energy of strategy on your part, right? To me, like I said, a very measured approach to things, even with Vantage, right, where we said kind of like a wait and see kind of energy. I feel like this is saying that, you're just being very deliberate with your movements, really observing things, right, from a higher vantage point and taking in the information and figuring out how best to use that. All right, so for the seventh house of partnerships, contracts, and relationships, we have success. So this is the Two of Feathers or Two of Wands in traditional tarot, so more Aries energy here. Yeah, to see this come up could just be saying, especially, right, like we said with the Son of Horns, maybe you're putting yourselves back out there in some way this month. And if that's the case, it looks like this is saying that can actually lead to some success. So whether it be a creative venture partnership or more of a romantic thing, looks like you could see some success with that this month. Which in a way does make sense because we do still have Jupiter transiting through your seventh house, and it felt like it was retrograde forever, right? But recently it's finally moved into direct motion now. It's at full speed for the most part, so that could be contributing to that success. For your eighth house, which we also saw come up with the dice, we have Breach. So yeah, to see this here, eighth house in general points to death, rebirth, intimacy, and investments, right? So plenty of things it could cover, but when we look at it in this regard, I feel like this is saying maybe just try not to enter into anything new when it comes to investments, I would say, right? Because there's a chance that it could just feel like it flows right out in a more positive sense. Excuse me, in a more positive sense, if this is something that you'd already invested in, this could be pointing to success around that, right? So if there is something that's been tied up for a while, you might finally start to see it flow your way this month. But yeah, it could also just be saying that maybe there's a little bit of confusion around how things might really be versus how they appear on the surface. And that's primarily what I would say when it comes to any new investments. You might want to just hold off on those a little bit, or at the very least, really read up on them for sure before you sign on the dotted line. All right. In the ninth house, which in general points to philosophy, higher learning, and foreign affairs, we have enchantment. So yeah, so to see this here, well, for one, I should point out this is the Ace of Roots or the Ace of Pentacles, as it would be in traditional tarot. So yeah, this could just be saying maybe something new is capturing your attention, right? Maybe there is a new direction you're looking to move into, which is interesting, right? Because we talked about what the second house looks like. You're in a wait and see kind of mode, right? The Hermit, like we said, looks like very deliberate, thinking things through. But maybe ultimately you're finding that, yeah, maybe there is something new calling to you. So it could be a combination of where you're like, okay, you know that this is in the forefront of your mind, right? But at the same time, okay, until you're really sure, right? Like, okay, is this idea sustainable or not? You could just be playing it cool, right? Making it seem like business as usual, even though beneath the surface you might be thinking, okay, what's my next move going to be here, right? Am I going to pursue this new thing or stay where I am now for the time being? All right, so for the 10th house of career and social status, we have the moon. So to see this energy here, we see the owl symbolism again, but what I'm getting with this could just be saying that, yeah, there might be a little bit more to a situation than what appears at the surface level. So could just be saying that again, you might have to just be a little bit more discerning, right? Wasn't that long ago when we had a full moon in Libra, which would be your 10th house, right? So it could just be saying the residual effects of that, right? So you could still be trying to think through what might have been revealed to you around that time and figuring out where to go from there. All right, so for the 11th house, which points primarily to friendships, groups, hopes, and wishes, we have loss. So yeah, to see this energy here, it's basically the equivalent of the Five of Cups. It's the Five of Horns in this deck. Could just be saying that maybe you are realizing that there's certain groups that you've affiliated with, right? So, for example, for some, you could be within the work environment, right? Given what we were talking about, you just might not feel as connected to those groups as you did in the past. And that could be part of where the shedding's coming from, too, right? Where you're like, okay, maybe it's time for me to move on to a new group, right? So, again, if you go from one job to another, that could be one clear cut example of how, okay, you're in one group today, move on to the next job, you're in another group, right? So, it could be something like that. Or just realizing that in the cycle that you're in of growth, maybe there's connections that did fit where you were in life at one point, but maybe you feel like you could be outgrowing them in a way now. All right. And in the 12th house, which in general points to spirituality, blind spots, and mental health, we have the world. So the world is definitely, usually for me, I view it as a bit of a Saturnian energy, but in a more positive sense of growth, So maybe the lessons weren't, they might have been hard earned lessons, but ultimately for your growth in the long term. And I view it as a bit of North Node type energy too, which we saw come up with the dice. So yeah, so to see this here, I feel like this is saying that inwardly there's been some growth that you've been going through, right? And this could be going back to what we were saying with the guile part, where maybe you're not outwardly revealing these changes and this growth that you've gone through, right? For various reasons why that could be the case. But like this is saying that even if you make it seem cool, calm, collected on the surface, beneath the surface, you've really been doing some deep diving and, like we said, maybe caught up in a new belief system that could be calling to you, right? Or just even if not a belief system, maybe some of your beliefs that you've held for a while are shifting, and again, you just might not be ready to come out publicly and let people know that that's the case. All right, and bottom of the deck we have anguish. So this is the 9 of arrows, 9 of swords in most decks. So yeah, this could just be saying that maybe you feel a little bit overwhelmed, right? Which could be the case, right? Like given what we were talking about, maybe you have these strategic approaches to things, but at the same time you're like, okay, maybe it's for the best that I don't let everyone know where I'm going, right? What I'm thinking, what I'm doing. So could just be saying the weight of that could be what's causing this energy. If that's the case, there are some indicators that it could be clearing up for you, even if not this month, in the near future, because I do see that it looks like you're pretty close to being decided and moving forward. But again, like we said, it looks like you could be holding back a bit. And the good thing there is we see beneath that we have truth. So this would be the equivalent of the Ace of Swords. So yeah, and more owl symbolism. But yeah, so it could just be saying that the wisdom's there, right? It could just be a matter of still adjusting to it, right? And figuring out, okay, this is a big shift. As I'm shifting there, are there going to be others who come with me, right? Or I'm going to have to potentially leave some behind, things along those lines there. So yeah, some heavier thoughts to have for sure, but I feel like you will get a little bit more clarity as to whether you're on the right path or not in the near future. But last, we will pull an oracle card. So I mentioned we're going to pull a card from the Wisdom Oracle. I'm just going to give just a few shuffles, and then we'll cut the deck and pull a card. Okay. And we'll take this card here. Let's get this out of the way, and we'll see what you got. All right, we have a change in the wind. So yeah, another indicator that things could be shifting, right? Like we said, maybe leaving one group behind, embracing another. For whatever reason, it won't focus. There we go. There's the artwork, and the number is 12. Which 12, the first thing that comes to mind for me with that number when it comes to the tarot realm is the hangman. So yeah, it could just be saying, you might not be fully decided yet, but there's definitely something beneath the surface that you're thinking through. So we'll see what it says in the book. All right. Essential meanings says a sense that unseen change has been initiated, preparation for a storm, awareness that your plans are not on firm ground, feeling a shift, uncertainty about which direction the winds will blow. The oracle's message: it's human nature to yearn for certainty and resist change. To want the world to remain consistent like a zebra's stripes, yet nothing in human experience is black and white, nor will anything remain static. The one thing guaranteed is change. Now is a time of transformation as outer conditions are temporarily moving out of sync with your desires and expectations. Stay the course and remember that even storms serve to clear the air, scatter seeds, and nourish the soil for better things ahead. Life is about to get interesting. Anticipate it with curiosity as you wonder what is coming in on the shifting winds. The unknown is where the magic lies. So definitely an interesting message there because it does make me think of the fact that we're just about to have Uranus move into your sixth house, right? So it's been in Taurus, which is your fifth house, for a very long time. It did go briefly into your sixth house last year, but now it's going back in there for an extended stay. And that could be part of why, you might feel some of these changes coming about. But given that 6 house points to health, work, daily routines, right? So that could be what's rumbling beneath the surface for you now. All right, the relationship message says relationships go through periods where partners seem out of sync with each other and stormy emotions and moods threaten to take down the ship. Perhaps someone has a change of heart and leaves. These rough seas offer opportunities for mutual growth, the way for you to understand your own heart better and to know what you need to be truly happy. Rest assured that whatever is happening now, good will come of it. Take temporary shelter and remove yourself from drama. The air will clear and everything will be fresh and new again. This too shall pass. So an interesting message there, right? Because for those of you who are in a relationship, it could just be saying that, yeah, you might go through a bit of a bumpy ride there, but it had that more positive message toward the end, right? About this too shall pass. So maybe that could be what the success energy is about. But for those of you, given what I was seeing in the bigger context of the reading, I feel like you're more likely to be entering a new situation versus already being in one from the past. All right, and the prosperity message says, as you endeavor to create a prosperous life, you may encounter unexpected reversals that cause you to shift directions. This is a good thing, so there is no need to fear. Perhaps an opportunity you sought went to someone else. Perhaps you've pursued something that you suddenly realize is not in your highest good. You might not be 100% clear on where you need to go, but you are certain that things are not going as planned. Circumstances are not in your control right now. Wait it out. All be well. Even better, actually. Trust. So yeah, definitely a good message there, especially if you are feeling a little bit of confusion around your careers, right? Like we said with the moon energy. So that sounds like it could be a positive, supportive message for those of you who are feeling that energy right now. But yeah, overall, hopefully that resonated with you guys, and we'll wrap up there. All right, bye.